another of our series of interviews with experts in their field. And this week, very pleased to say, I've got Duncan Webster, who many of you probably know actually is the Executive Director for BNI, that's Business Network International, in Northants, Leicestershire and Rutland. So Duncan, hello.
Hi Rupert, how are you?
I'm very well, and yourself?
I'm awesome today.
Good, excellent. So Duncan, I think obviously the first thing we should be talking about is actually what is networking. So how would you define networking?
It's a very broad topic, and obviously it's until you ask the question. To me, it's an opportunity to meet and build relationships with people. And the main goal when I'm building those relationships is to have a relationship strong enough where they would be willing to share their contacts with me. And I do that through the heading of networking.
Okay. So what are the benefits of networking?
I mean, well, for me, I would say the benefits are life-changing. The reality is networking helped me grow my business over 18 years ago. Started as a sole trader. I didn't know anybody, and actually I was in a situation where I tried to join a networking group in Kettering to find out there was a lockout clause and I couldn't actually join because I'd be competing with someone that did the same as me. So I got an opportunity to join a group in Northampton, which was some way away from me. But the reality is I didn't know anybody in Northampton. And then through networking, I feel like I know everybody in Northampton. So it's worked really, really well for me from that perspective. It's given me a support team. It's given me suppliers. 86% of my business comes through networking. The sort of customer I get, if it comes through networking, it's always based off someone recommending me. So if someone's recommended me, it's like they've passed their own personal reputation by making that recommendation. So the most important thing is I don't let them down and I don't spoil their reputation. And of course, I then get an opportunity. You know, it's not guaranteed work. I still have to do a pitch. I still have to do a proposal. But I notice that if it's come through a recommendation with that kudos that comes with that, I pretty much convert 99% of any recommendations you get because they're already pre-sold before I actually get to speak to them. Mm-hmm. So providing what I offer matches what they're looking for and I can solve their issues, then it's kind of a done deal from that point of view. Sure. So conversion rates I find much higher through networking.
So really, just because of that personal introduction from one person to another, it is already you've got a head start on any other method of marketing your business.
Yeah. I mean, I remember joining a group, and it's changed. Networking's changed. There's a lot more balance of females and males in the networking group now. When I started 18 plus years ago, I joined a group of 32, but the two were two females. The rest were men. There's 30 men.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's a nerve-wracking thing. You go into this meeting and they all look like solicitors and bankers. And I'm looking at myself, little old me, thinking, am I in the right place?
Yeah.
I can't say I necessarily felt overly comfortable initially, but actually, if you can get over that barrier, I mean, for instance, you know, first time I gave my pitch, you know, I went bright red. Like I used to blush really easy. And the reality is, you know, because I'm bold, you know, even the people behind me could see my embarrassment.
Yeah.
But by putting yourself through that and then standing up and doing it the second week, by the third week, I got control of my emotions, and then it started really working for me. But having said that, there was somebody in the room. His name was Michael Markham. He was the MD of Stanner Industrial Doors. And he wasn't a tall chap, but he was massive in stature. And to this day, I remember him standing up and doing a presentation, his 60-second presentation to the room. And it's just, the room went completely silent the moment everyone was hanging on his word because he'd prepared his pitch, he knew what he was saying, people respected him. And so he'd got an audience that's just switched on to anything he's saying. And as someone brand new, I looked at him and I thought, I want to be like you, you know.
Yeah.
There's Shy Me, and I want to be Mr. Network like he was. So in my head, I put Mike on my own internal pedestal, and I watched him like others did, thinking I would love the opportunity to build my skill level where I could hold a room in such a way. And that massively helped me because, of course, the reality came where I got asked to be a director, helping some chapters, and then I became area director, and eventually I then decided to buy the region so I could run it the way I thought it should be run.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Duncan. You segued nicely into my next question for you as well, because obviously you're an executive director with BNI. So
yeah,
for those who are not familiar with BNI, do you want to just talk a little bit about what BNI is?
Yeah, I mean, you introduced it earlier as Business Network International. I think BNI is a very structured way of networking. There's a couple of key areas about BNI, because even though it's got network in the name, I think a lot of people, I used to, for instance, I used to have a little hook at the end of my 60 seconds if I was promoting BNI, and I'll say networking is a contact sport. And of course, that did leave a memory seed in people's memory. However, my phrase changed, certainly for the morning groups, changed to don't skip breakfast. It can seriously damage your wealth. And the reason I changed that line is because we're a referral organisation, really, even though it says networking. We're not there to just go and have a coffee and have a social. We're actually there to find opportunities for each other. When I go to a meeting, it's a meeting with my admin. It's my admin meeting with my sales team. I'm not going to the room. So most other kind of networking, you're selling to the room. That's exactly what I'm not doing in a BNI meeting. I'm actually educating my sales team so they know how to recommend me on and how to connect me with their contacts.
Yeah.
And of course, I'm doing exactly the same for them. So when they're speaking, if they ask something specific, I take notes and I look, outside of the BNI meeting, I then look at how can I connect them and how can I help my fellow members. Yeah. And BNI has a phrase, an ethos, and it's called givers gain. And the more people you help, the more they help you back. But my philosophy is, on the top of that has always been givers give. If you give without the expectation of receiving, it's just amazing what comes back to you, because every time you help someone, subconsciously in their minds, whether you like it or don't like it, and of course we love it, but subconsciously there's that feeling of what a great guy, I owe him one, if he ever needs a favour, I'll help him. And if you're getting to that position, when it's your time and there's someone you want to get into or you want to be introduced to someone, of course, people that you've helped previously are going to want to help you back. And they actually appreciate the opportunity to actually return the favour. So yeah, I think that's how I'd answer that. And that all came under the guise of BNI. I think some people initially say, "Oh, it's very American," and part of me thinks, "What's wrong with that?" But the reality is, if being American is having an opportunity to be in a room and help others and actually be able to say what it is you want, then I'm all for it. Yeah. Because actually, I think we're quite shy in retiring as a country, and we don't get to the point of what it is we're actually looking for. And the nice thing with BNI, we actually give you permission. If you want to get into a business, give us the name of the business, and we're trying to help you get into it.
Yeah, and actually, the Americans are much more forward than we are, without a doubt.
They are.
We're very reserved, and I like the whole message of abundance as well. It's all about, actually, it's not just about me. It's how can I help other people, other businesses, which is a great message as well. So, what sort of people join BNI then, Duncan?
That's another really good question, and it's a large question, but I've met every type of person, if I'll be really honest, from all walks of life, all different industries, all different ages. I've had people bring kids that are about to go off to university and they want to show how they could promote their business, how they can learn how to promote in a room, how to build confidence. And they introduce them to the idea. They've even, brought them along and they've represented their parents, or they've even come from university to look for a job opportunity and promote themselves. And they've got job opportunities through coming along as a visitor. We've even had people become directors. I think the youngest director in B&I was something like 17 years old. So the reality is her father was in, he got a daughter in, and actually she did very well. And then she became a director looking after a chapter. So age is not a barrier.
Yeah.
And I remember a long time ago, we had someone, he was an IFA, but he was in his 70s. And I remember when he joined the group, he was 60 something. And you would assume someone that's lived to that age, has had all this experience, confidence, knows how to speak in a room. And it was he felt just the same as someone that was brand new at it. He came, and I think the reason, it was really grounding because someone came with all this skill and experience, and actually he found himself in a room with people. And it kind of answers your question, people from all walks of life.
Yeah.
So you got someone that would mow the lawn, followed up by someone that's a landscaper and a builder, and you've got all the trades for building the house. And then you get the professional services, accountants, solicitors, you get insurance companies, web designers, social media. Mm-hmm. So as you can see, it's a broad range, and that's just, tip of the iceberg. So you're in the room for a lot of people, in front of people that you would never normally have an opportunity to do a face-to-face chat. So I remember when I was in a room, to have an opportunity to ask a solicitor a simple question without paying some massive bill to go with it, I just thought, well, this is golden. To be able to go to an accountant and say, I'm not sure about this, and the accountant just gives me an answer there and then. Or, and it might be, oh, no, I wouldn't do that. Or it might be, no, you should do it this way. Or, so to bounce ideas and tick those boxes when you're trying to do something in your business, that's part of the support I was talking about. It's great to have that level of support.
So it sounds like, it sounds like it's all sorts of business. So there's no one type of business. It sounds like you've got all sorts of age groups. So there's not one type of age group. No. The only thing I'm picking up here is it's attitude that actually is the common thread through the BNI membership. Yeah,
I think you've hit it there. If someone normally asks, I said, it's for every business, it's not for everybody. And it's not for everybody is one, it just doesn't suit some people. But some people don't come with a positive and supportive attitude. And actually we have a code of ethics, which makes BNI, I don't know of any other organisation in that sort of networking circle that has a code of ethics in the same way. And they're simple code of ethics, ones you would expect. But ironically, my favourite is the positive and supportive attitude with other BNI members.
Yeah.
So the nice thing with that particular one is, when you go to a meeting, it's a very positive, uplifting experience. And when we were meeting face to face, I remember going to a BNI meeting and I felt like I was hovering out the door because this meeting just recharged me for the week ahead. So my meetings when I used to be in the chapter used to be on a Tuesday morning, and that was me recharged for the whole week. It's brilliant.
And it's interesting because a lot of people have a perception that BNI, the meeting structure is very formal. And obviously, I know you're exchanging referrals to each other and congratulating each other on their successes and things. But so what would you say to those people?
Well, because people are from all walks of life, there's a formality of how you dress to start with. And as you see, I like to dress in a smart way, even though we're working remotely. I get dressed every day for work. I'm ex-forces, I'm ex-RAF, I was in the RAF for 12 years. And that's kind of me dressed for work type thing. However, a builder will come and that's not what suits what they wear. Someone in social media, would probably have a branded T-shirt on, an example. So that's one area where people might consider formalities. but actually everyone come, from different walks of life, they come and present themselves how they feel they should present themselves. And then there's the formality of how a meeting would run. So if being formal means we run an agenda, which we do, we run a 20-point agenda, it doesn't mean we don't have fun. I mean, ironically, there's a lot of fun, a lot of humour throughout the meeting. One of the things we found, certainly in a face-to-face meeting, it's very easy to have lots of interaction while the meeting's going on. I think initially people found it a bit harder with it being online initially. And then we realised to get that same character and fun into meeting, we have meetings where the mics are all switched on. So it isn't a case that everyone's silent and there's only one person talking. You can still create that interaction. And there's no way it would charge me up, and there's no way I would be floating and hovering out the room after a meeting if I wasn't enjoying myself. But the structure's there really to help maximize business. So without a structure, I mean, as a business coach, you will know, unless you have a goal and a plan and there's a purpose behind it, then how are you going to grow your business? And if I'll be honest, with all the niceties that I talk about, the single main reason I joined was to earn more money. Now, I realized there were 10 other reasons why I carried on and I renewed, but I didn't know any of those reasons when I joined. And one of those would be personal development. Within 2 months, fully control of my, in any kind of giveaway of me feeling nervous, I got control of that. Within 7 months, I was a president of a chapter. Kind of felt a bit like the new boy first again, like that first meeting, because of course that's a big step up. But then I learned some leadership, how to manage people. I then went on to take on other roles. Because I'd done that, it gave me the confidence to become a chair of a national charity. But I would have never have done that if I hadn't done these other roles within BNI. And then the training. I mean, I think one of my fears of joining BNI wasn't anything to do with things like formals. None of those bothered me in the slightest. The only thing, when I come to actually sign the dotted line, to think, there's one thing that went through my head is, can I afford it? And I'll just start the business. And I'm thinking, I'm not sure I can afford it. And then this insurance guy said to me, if you're starting your business, you can't afford not to join, was his comment. So that kind of resonated with me from that perspective. But ultimately, once I got involved and just learned all these different things that BNI would give me, I look at the most single thing. Oh, referrals. That was it. I went off a slight tangent there. Referrals. I was worried that I wouldn't be able to pass referrals. So I think that was more of a blockage to me than the money side of it, because I could see referrals being passed and seeing people get referrals, but I didn't think I could pass them. And then someone said, "Oh, you'll get training on how to do that," and they shared some of this training with me, the sort of things we would learn. And of course, you don't realize at the time, but once you've had that kind of focus, that reticular activator in your brain trained, you can't go anywhere without seeing a referral or an opportunity for one of the other members. So what was a concern was completely wiped out by the fact that BNI gave me training and taught me how to find that.
And actually, just one last question on BNI as well. Is there an ability to, because I know BNI is area based, but
yes,
as a member, the BNI is allowed to move around other areas?
My advice generally is if you can visit other chapters, you get a better opportunity doing that, providing your category isn't taken, because obviously it's not fair on a member that's already got that category. And my advice when doing that, so if you've got a chapter where your business isn't represented and you're in a BNI chapter, I would always go from the point of view of supporting that chapter. So if they need a substitute, someone to stand in for them, then I would go as a substitute. And the reason I'll do that is members just love it. The fact you've come along and you're helping one of their members, of course, they're now tuned to you before you even get to talk about your own business. So you've already built credibility by going along as a sub, and then you get an opportunity to then promote your own business. So you get a double whammy. You're in one chapter and you're promoting yourself in the other. And then BNI, and another thing that makes BNI stand out, it has this amazing app. So it's a BNI Connect app, it's called. And you go on it, and of course, any members that saw you there, they want to pass referrals. That's what we do. So the reality, if they can help you, they can just go on the app, find you on the app, and actually pass the referral on the app to you.
Yeah.
And you can also, through the app, thank them for that. So there's a thank you for the business, where they will get recognised by the fact that they passed a referral and it was worth X amount of money, and you can actually, on the same app, thank them back and let them know what that was worth to you. So that will make that person look good in the chapter. So you're helping them in return as well.
Brilliant. Fantastic stuff. So a more generic question then, Duncan, when a business owner is trying to decide which networking events they should be attending, what would your advice be for the events they should go to?
Well, I would go and have a look. I mean, every event I've ever been to has been different. So certainly when I started, I went to Chamber of Commerce. I met a different type of person and a different size of business at the Chamber of Commerce. I went to FSB. I got massively involved with the FSB. So I used to help run the FSB breakfast in Northampton and East Northants. So I actually very much enjoyed that. Again, met a different type of customer, but their types of networking are different. The agenda wasn't one towards referrals, and it doesn't clash with BNI at all. So, it's a friendly networking, and certainly to start to meet people, I think that probably helped me initially.
Yeah.
But then when I went to BNI and then I saw how focused it was about getting business and growing your business, then BNI was the one eventually that I adopted. But no, and I personally like mornings. I did do a thing called a business club. And certainly in my region, that was run by Mike Willis. Absolutely loved that. Very friendly guy, good on sales. And again, it was connections. I think the only reason I kind of steered away from some of those groups is because I would often see my competitors at those meetings. And, I had an instance at one of those sessions where someone put their hand up and asked to speak to me. And of course, everyone in the room knew that the person now needed some web work doing, needed a website.
Yeah.
And so I went across, and lo and behold, two of my competitors were behind me waiting to speak. And it just didn't feel like, it didn't feel support. It didn't feel quite right. And you don't get that. You're not in competition with anybody in BNI.
The point being, it's find the networking event that works for you, and that helps you, you're comfortable with, and works for your business.
Yeah, and I think with networking, so my answer really is you should try all the networks. I mean, I think they're all good. They're all opportunities for you. I wouldn't go networking if you don't have a plan. So regardless of where you go, I think you need to set yourself a goal and a plan. Mm-hmm. Don't be driven by numbers. I remember some people, I've done it myself. In the early days, I went to a Chamber of Commerce networking event at Highgate House. I came back and I had 55 business cards. Yeah. And there was about 70 people at the event. So I'd got the majority of cards off people. But they weren't opportunities. And I soon learned that actually, by having a goal and a plan, if I set a sensible goal, if I could touch base with 3 or 4 people and get permission to contact them afterwards, to arrange a one-to-one to have a coffee to see how we could help each other, that was a much better use of my time, because I maybe just be able to help them. If I help them, that will build a relationship, because obviously people love it when you help them. And if I ever need anything in the future, then they're more likely to want to help me or recommend me to somebody that they know.
So how did you prepare to go to a meeting then, Duncan?
Well, for me, I would always try to find out as much as possible the culture of the meeting that you're going to. So if I took FSB as an example, and I don't know how they run those meetings now, but they used to meet on lots of round tables, so like cabaret style. And I would turn up early, and the reason I turn up early is I would always act as a host. And the reason I always behaved as a host is because I knew there would be people coming that had never done any networking before, and I could share the culture with them. I could find them a seat. I could even sit them next to me and guide them through the meeting. And of course, anyone that you help, you're building a relationship while you're doing that. And that not only was that a good use of my time, but I truly love helping people. And if I can make them feel more comfortable, they'll get more out of that meeting. But, you know, it's a bit like I said right at the beginning about givers give. Me doing that, I'm still giving. I'm still supporting and helping. It isn't about what I can get. It's about how many people can I help in the shortest amount of time.
Yeah.
And the law of reciprocity is if you help, you know, what goes around comes around. The more people you help, the more they'll help you back.
Yeah.
So I would always make sure, I would never, for instance, wear a B&I pin if I was going to an FSB meeting or chamber, but I would wear my FSB pin, for instance. If I go into the chamber, I would wear what's suitable for the chamber. I used to always take some sticky labels with me and a pen, and that's because often someone give you a glossy card and there's nowhere to write on it. So I'll get permission from them. Is it all right if I put a sticky label on the back of your card just to take some notes? And everyone always said yes, so I'd make those notes. Whenever I gave, I always asked for their cards first, because if you ask for their cards, they're just the bits to pass their cards. Obviously, I want their details, or else how can I arrange a one-to-one to help them? And in my notes, I will make notes to allow me to remember who they are, certainly from a point of view of doing a follow-up after the meeting, because it's very easy to go networking, collect cards, and you have a whole bunch of manila or white cards, and there's no picture of them on the card, and you think, was this that person's card? So to actually also help me, I used to put my picture actually on my card, so someone wouldn't have to do that. They'd know if they spoke to me or not. And even something simple as that pays dividends. You know, I've had someone contact me 2 years after an event and say, "Oh, I need a website. I'm now ready to use you. And do you remember me? We met at such and such." And 2 years down the line, so it shows you how effective that can be. But yeah, I'd stick a white label on that. Just allowed me to take notes really for the follow up.
Just those little tips, isn't it? And obviously the photo is a great idea, because actually the number of times I recognise the name and I can't put the face to it quickly enough is a bit alarming. So
yeah, and it definitely can be frustrating, because amongst those cards there might be an opportunity. I used to run a 2-pocket system, so sometimes there was an opportunity for me that went in the left pocket. Sometimes I found an opportunity for someone else in any of the networks where I could connect two people where they could help each other. So I'd make that note, and those opportunities went in my right pocket, and that just allowed me to separate it out and follow it up later on.
Yeah, I suppose it's on the fly organisation, isn't it?
It is. The other thing I used to always gave 2 cards. So from the point of view that, yes, they can keep one for themselves, but often someone wants to pass your card on.
Oh, yeah.
So they'll be chatting and they'll say something, "Oh, I need to have a chat with my boss," or something like that. Well, if I've given them 2 cards, the person I made the contact with will still have my card, but it enables him to then pass the card on to the decision maker, perhaps, in the business. So that can work well as well.
So the other thing about a lot of networking meetings is that they get you to do a pitch on your business, 45 seconds, 60 seconds on what your business is all about. So what would you advise people to say, and how would you advise them to say it when they have to do their 45 seconds, their 60 seconds?
I think it depends where you are, what network you're at. I think it depends what you're hoping to get from the pitch. I don't see, personally, until I have a relationship, I think it's very difficult to ask for something specifically until you got a relationship. When you have a relationship with the room and people know who you are, then actually the people in the room will help you, in which case you can be really specific. So when you get to that point, I would say you need to be specific. But before you get to there, I know a lot of people stand up and they tell you a load of facts about the history of their business, and all these facts come across, and that's just telling me about them. It's kind of facts tell where stories sell. So if you've got a story where you've helped somebody and there's a result because you helped them, i.e. you solved a problem, and you can fit that as an element of your pitch, then people will remember that story. You saved them how much? You know, you can almost, a light bulb can go on when someone tells you a story. And of course, you find yourself telling someone else their story because it's a good story that you wouldn't have known they could have achieved that. And then if you're then looking for something, do you know someone else in this same profession where I could help them in the same way? That then starts getting your brain thinking, well, who do I know in that profession? Yeah. And then ultimately, if you've been really specific, then if you can then name a company and perhaps a department, and sometimes down to the name of the person you're getting to, you'd be really surprised, certainly when you're networking locally, that how many people there are in the room that might know that contact or know someone else in the same business or know someone else in the same department.
Yeah.
In which case that can get you to where you want to get to. And if someone does pass you that as a recommendation, I can get you in there, then I'd always recommend you do a small one-to-one with them first. So you can just strategize the best way of being introduced. And also to allow them to find out what it is you can offer. You've asked to be put in. Well, if I put you into my best client's business, what is it you can do for them? I'd need to know that. Because I don't want, I'm putting my reputation on the line by recommending you. And I respect the fact they're also doing the same for me. So I think the one-to-one's important because you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yeah.
So if you make an approach, make it having had that conversation first. And then the other thing I would always do is follow up with a person that recommended you. So even to the point of view that I get an appointment in the diary to see them, I'll go straight back to the person that recommended me and say, oh, thanks for that. I've actually put that in the diary and I'm seeing them on this time. What I'll do is once I've had the meeting, I'll let you know how the meeting went. Yep, and then I'll follow them up again. Now, you've got to imagine, if I'm keeping them up to date on a regular basis because I really appreciate what they've done for me. And, it's just the common decent thing to do is to keep them updated in the loop, especially if it's one of their clients. They want to know their client's been looked after. Are they more likely or less likely to give me another recommendation in the future? And I'd always say they're more likely to do that.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Good advice. Very good advice. Actually, one last question for you, Duncan. With all that's going on at the moment, particularly obviously the impact of COVID and the move to a lot of online networking at the moment, what do you see networking looking like in the future? What's your prediction for what networking is going to look like in the next 5-10 years?
Yeah, I think there'd be a mixture. I personally, I like mornings. I'm very lively in the mornings. Well, I'm lively all day, if I'll be honest. But actual networking, I like to get up at the crack of dawn. So an early morning meeting suits me. And I love doing face-to-face. I just find it much quicker to build a relationship. But it's very clear that you can still build a relationship online. So the whole of my region pivoted within a week to go online. That's 17 groups online within a week with the skills to now run an online meeting. And when I look at it, probably a third of the region actually joined online. So they've never ever done a face-to-face meeting. So some of those people, that's all they've ever known. Mm-hmm. So when we pivot back to face-to-face, they may decide that that's not what they want. And the reality is they will want to look for perhaps an online meeting or some kind of hybrid meeting where 3 of the meetings are face-to-face and 1 of the meetings once a month is online, as an example. Yeah. So I think there could be a mix. I think where the biggest change, personally, I think most people that used to meet face-to-face will go back to face-to-face. I think where the changes will happen are things like training. So for a lot of organisations, things like, when you have a committee meeting, you don't all have to pitch up somewhere for a committee meeting. You can just go online and do that. It's just business, isn't it? And that's a good use of everyone's time. If I was doing a presentation skills training or networking skills or relationship building, we will still do some face-to-face training because it's a networking opportunity in a room. You can move around, make contacts, sit where you want, help people. That will still happen. But also we respect the fact that some people, that's a long way to travel if we're doing centralised training. So we will mix that with online training. Well, we would have never considered that before COVID, where now you could end up in a scenario where, it could be 50-50. It could be 50% is done face-to-face for those that want that, and the other 50% could be online. So I think the world's changed and it's changed forever. We've just got to decide and adapt the bits that best fit being online. And of course, like people are all different, everybody will want something different. So, and I'm sure everyone will be provided for in the future.
Fantastic. Duncan, thanks for your time today. It's been lovely. Obviously, a lot of people watching this are going to be interested in BNI. So how do they make contact with BNI? How do they find out what you're all about and get some more detail and experience BNI?
Yeah, well, we have a regional website, and whether that in our region or not, we'll help anyone that needs that help. The regional website is bnibreakfast.co.uk. You can find out all the information there. You can search for a group local to you. If you're not within the region, then you can go to bni.co.uk, and there is a facility where you can type in a postcode, and it will let you know where your nearest groups are. And in which case, you can find a group, there's an opportunity to make contact, and literally you can just go along as a visitor. And certainly at the moment while it's online, you can go along completely free of charge. Somebody will send you a link and you can just go and have a look for yourself.
Marvellous. Duncan, thank you for your time today. It's been
my
great
pleasure.
talking to you. And yeah, I'll see you in the future.
Yeah, thanks. Brilliant. Thanks, Rupert. You have a good day.
Thanks, Duncan. That was great.
Yeah, is that the cover sort of thing you want?
Wind you up and let you go.